I would like to emphasize that we got a very good help from GITA, which is a public-private partnership between Technology Development Board, Department of Science and Technology, and the Government of India. They finance and give incentives for R&D programs. So we've been talking with GITA and also CDTI in Spain. CDTI in Spain is especially giving incentive to R&D projects being executed, especially in Korea, Chile, Morocco, China, India, Mexico, and USA in Spain. So we found interesting, because we think one of the pillars, as Mr. Cheta said before, one of the important things we have to promote during the coming years in India and out of India is the R&D projects. R&D and technology is one of the pillars to be successful in the manufacturing in India. There are also examples, for example, manufacturing in Europe. There are examples of movements of big companies such as Tesla that is establishing a gigafactory for battery for storage near Berlin. There is also, I put here a link of a document that I found that is quite interesting, made by Fraunhofer ISE. In this document, they give arguments and incentives that they want to prove that it will be good and sustainable to create a PV manufacturing plant in Europe. If we use the same arguments, we will probably get the same conclusion, even with a stronger argument for manufacturing in India.
Mr. Naki, sorry to interrupt you. Some of the people in the chat box are requesting your voice is not clear. And if you could go, if possible, if you could go full screen, that would be nice. Thank you.
I take the screen out, take the video out.
No, you could do that, or keep your microphone close to your mouth so that you can.
Okay.
You can be. Okay.
Sorry for that. Is it better now?
Much better now. Much better.
Okay, thank you. I will keep my microphone very, very close to me. Why manufacturing in India? Yeah. If we take a little bit ideas from this Fraunhofer report that they made in September, we see that according to Shell scenario, in the energy use for the coming years, especially the solar, which is this curve, this red curve. I don't know if you are able to see properly this drawing. I can see it very well in my computer. I don't know how well you can see it. But we can see that it's going to be a tremendous increase in the solar demand for the coming years. Especially, we can see that we are here. Although India has a good experience in solar manufacturing, we can see that we are just in the starting curve of a big explosion of solar demand in the world. So the market is there. The market is here. The worldwide market is here. And obviously countries like India with 1.2 billion people, the domestic market is huge as well, right? So manufacturing PV modules in India means secure independency from imports in the energy sector, address a huge market in India, but not only India. We have America, we have South America, North America, Europe, and so on. Create and secure jobs, produce sustainably, provide high-tech products. We could provide high-tech products in India. You could assure yield and quality at the highest level, as in Europe or as in China. Another important factor is the capex cost. The price of special equipment has been falling significantly. And today, there is a very high level of automation being implemented in most of the companies. For example, in China, even in India. In India, we are starting, big players are starting to have a high level of automation. So we can say that there is a big market worldwide. We can say also that, again, according to Shell scenario, this market is right now starting. So we can see that opportunities are huge for a country like India. If we take the cost distribution of the OpEx of a module manufacturing in Europe, for example, in Europe, and a small, let's say, medium size, in Europe, almost nobody is doing, let's say, gigawatt products. Everybody's doing it. Average module manufacturers in Europe they are manufacturing about 100, 200, 300 megawatts, no more. Most of them, some of them are located in France, some of them are located in Germany. There are also some of them located in Italy with less capacity. So they have to buy, or they buy the cells from outside. The cost of the cells is about 58%. Okay.
Mr. Inaki?
Yes,
Sorry,
can you hear me?
yeah, sorry to interrupt. Can you make your screen full, because there is a lot of participants requesting your screen is not full. You know, it's like we can see the slides twice.
Oh.
So can you make it full screen and also really speak into the mic, because you're not so audible.
Okay, sorry. Can you see now?
Still the screen is double. So you need to.
Mr. Inaki, it's okay. I think we are just short of time and running out of time. So if you could finish it in the next 1 or 2 minutes with your rest of the presentation.
Okay, I'm sorry for that. Today I'm working with 2 screens, which is not, normally I don't use it.
Okay.
And I'm having some issues.
Yeah, that internet connectivity, the bandwidth issues is there. Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. Any case, what slide are you looking at? Are you in?
Yeah, the 8th one.
You're in slide number 8?
Yes.
All the time you see in slide number 8. Okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Yes, please. Hello?
So yeah. I went to. Are you able to see slide number 9?
Yeah.
Okay. So if we go with cost distribution in India, then because in India we are doing ribbon EVA, we have local manufacturing of ribbon EVA, backsheet, POE, J-box, frames, and so on. We are able to go down in the cost of the rest of raw materials, besides the cells today. The cost of operation will dramatically go down compared to Europe or other countries. So we only have basically the cells, wafer, and ingot manufacturing process left in India. Okay? So the idea will be that if we can go and if we can do the manufacturing of cells and wafer and vertical integration, then you will be all ready to go. Okay. Then, well, this is the tendencies.
Your slide is not moving, Inaki. It's still frozen at 8.
Yeah, I know. Is it moving now?
No.
Okay, those are the different type of modules that we are working on, which is the tendencies of the modules, which is cut cells and glass, and busbar-less modules and other types like flexible modules. So let's say the market is becoming more, there's a lot of range of modules in the market today.
Yeah.
And
Hello? Yeah. Could you please finish in another 1 minute, please? Pinaki?
Yeah. I will be done. I will be done in 1 minute. And so today, as I said before, in terms of level of automation, we are working to have more and more and more higher productivity machines, trying to focus in different technologies and especially cell sizes today, with also different joining techniques or PERC or PERT or AJT cell technology, and then improving as well the test equipment. And that's it.
Okay, great.
That's
Thank you, Mr. Inaki.
Thank you,
Always technical hassles always puts everybody in tenterhooks anyway. Thank you so much for your nice presentation, and thanks for letting us know about the Spanish government's efforts to connect the Spanish governments with other firms outside the country. And you were talking about recently about the recent collaborations you have signed up with an Indian company. Very great, nice to hear about that. And also you elaborated how the opportunities are very big, and India could be one of the very competing manufacturing hubs. Thank you very much for your perspectives, and we appreciate your participation. So next we will move on, but before that, I hope Mohsin, we will be able to flash the next set of questions.
Yes.
Yeah, please. So participants, again, we have another set of questions. This is what is holding back India from becoming a major power? Is it the absence of local supply chain? Is it the government support which is to be expanded, or the investment related issues, like they said that 5% it should be the interest that should be levied, and then lack of highly competent power. Sorry. So you choose between any one of them which you think is the most important impediment. You have now 5 seconds have already run out. Please utilize your time and then give you a choice.
So we conclude at 1 minute 15 seconds.
1 minute?
15
Not
seconds.
30.
Because we see a lot of audience responding to it. So.
Okay.
Okay, so we end the poll now.
Yeah, okay.
Here are the results.
Yeah. Great. So it comes out that, I mean, it is not a very clear verdict as we had last time. So the one thing that very prominently comes out is the government support is not very encouraging. It is at 45, though not, I mean, it's not more than 50, 45 is okay, but still that is one very weak point. And of course, supply chain, but it's not as serious as the government support. So together, you have 40, 60, 74%, 3/4 nearly, saying that supply chain, if we can strengthen, and government support also, if it is equally strengthened, coupled with some incentives in terms of investment promotion, that would be a good thing to do. But very satisfying is to know that, which I also agree, that we don't have any lack of highly competent manpower. So that is already now only 6% say that that is a major prediction. So at least that's an important thing, because manpower is what makes everything. So we have competent people, and as you have seen that we have such great experts with us, and there are so many other experts who are also there to support us. So this is a very, very great indicator, and then your perspectives are really, really very important. Thank you, participants, for your participation. Yeah, let us now move on to the next speaker, Ms. Helena Lee, and we are very delighted to have her because, as you know, China is our major supplier, and have in fact our growth in PV we could achieve because of the tremendous drop in prices and the supplies which we could get from China. They have really been behind our success in where we are. So, and Trina also has been very, very bullish, and they wanted to set up their manufacturing facility here. But we will now hear from Ms. Helena about what their plans were, where they are now, and how they are supporting. And as you know, they have already shipped about 4 gigawatt of equipments to India. So she, Miss Helena is focus. Her focus is on growing and developing technology companies. She joined Trina in 2013 as managing director and VP of Asia Pacific. She manages Trina Solar's global module sales and overseas business. She's prior to joining, she was in Intel and Microsoft. Again, another person from the semiconductor industry. So she is an executive MBA from the Chinese Europe International Business School. We are very proud to have you, Ms. Helena. Please enlighten us with your perspectives. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Hope my voice is clear because I'm calling.
Yeah,
from
your
Singapore.
voice is absolutely clear. Thank
Good.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm calling from Singapore, so I'm very happy to now meet
Okay.
all the friends and panelists here. Again, though we cannot travel now. Okay, so I'll move quickly. Just a very little snapshot of Trina. Trina have been, since 1997 founded, have been growing into a module supplier as well as branded a solution provider. So we are moving our business from product from module to system level, like trackers, integrated system solutions, and to internet IoT of energy. So that's so we are now moving towards the solution provider of the solar energy. So we have already shipped 50 gigawatt of panels, and we have also developed and connected 3 gigawatt of project ourselves. And we have shipped to customers over 100 plus countries. And we have employees, 100 employees, and we are fully globalized. I'm very happy to hear, all the friends now talking about integration of the manufacturer. In our Trina's past, we have been growing internationally and also as localized in each of the continent and offices we have. So, so we are now moving towards more and more solutions, as well as looking at how to make the supply chain more flexible, especially looking at the COVID-19. And we are also now looking at all the experiences we have in the past 2 months on all the materials, because we also have our supply chain located at different parts of China. So we are also looking at all the supply chain business. Currently, we have our major, module manufacturer in China, but we also have 2 manufacturer places overseas, which is in Thailand and also in Vietnam. And we have partners in Malaysia, but the main production site overseas are Vietnam and Thailand, which we ship many to Europe, to US and Europe before when there's tariff, for Chinese made panel. Okay, so the next is, I want to show this slide about, the products for panels since 2009, how the panel business and the cell technology is rolling. So this will echo what the other presenters have been mentioned. The solar technology is developing so fast. If you look at the power beam we talk about, and now we are around 450 watt panel for 72 cell, and we are now, Trina just recently we put into mass production where they shipped our Vertex panel, which is 500 watt. So the every 1 or 2 years you can see the upgrading of technology, and then the upgrading of productions and capabilities, and also the technology is moving very fast. Similarly to semiconductor industry, we are moving with the increase of the gigawatt capacity, how the technology is moving fast, and how the cost is going down. If everybody remember how the cost was when I joined solar industry is $2, now is 20 cents, right? So I think this is where the technology is heading to. And I think when being as a manufacturer, we have to look at how to continuously, upgrade our line or build new technology in storage, how to make the new technology with the highest efficiency, but also cheaper cost, so that the end user can really enjoy solar. So in order for solar to be into the gigawatt, I saw one of the presenter have like, 300 gigawatt, 500 gigawatt in the future. Now we are roughly around 120, or maybe this year, because of coronavirus, will be reduced a little bit. How we doubled the capacity of the total solar demand, what kind of impact it will be, and how the solar can be more competitive in the overall energy resources. So now, so this shows how we, and all different kind of form factor, double glass, bifacial, now are all coming into the main market, including in India. Okay, so then my next slide is Trina is we are very proud to say we have been one of the earliest first Chinese solar player to enter and have presence in India with localized team, fully localized team, and our Trina Solar India is a fully subsidiary of the Trina in China in a headquarter, and we have been shipped now total 4 gigawatt in India, and now moving more towards mono from the earliest time only poly product. And we also have set up all the service as well as logistic team support in India to make sure that we can be close to the customer. And with all the currently, or most of our R&D activity are in China, plus also we have a close collaboration with some of our R&D partners and scientists in Australia, Singapore, and Europe. So, and in India, we have been looking at several years ago when India just started launching the Making India campaign. We are very excited, and we are already looking at how to really make the India manufacture part of our path in the globalization, or in the localization for India. I think I want to talk. So I want to talk about what apparently I'm very happy to see we all share the same kind of ideas on how to really make global manufacturing, or make a manufacturing, solar manufacturing be, in other countries, as what we've done in Vietnam and Thailand. So first of all, I think what we look at is the infrastructure. We really have to look at all the transportation costs, logistic costs, because we are moving things around, especially when there's no local supply chain or the supply chain is scattered. We have to look at really the transportation and logistic costs, which sometimes is beyond the factory cost when we build a panel or build the cells. And we need to look at electricity and sufficient water supply. And when you look at all the water treatment, capacities and all this, we cannot have, we need the water and electricity. And also we have to really look at the logistic from the seaport, if we are looking at both shipping domestically and to ship to other countries. So, and then, we also need to look at the local supply chain. And I actually leave the most important to the last. So local supply chain availability is definitely one of the most important thing we actually evaluate access, because if there's no local supply chain, like currently Thailand and Vietnam factory, which we are running, apparently we still have to ship most of the materials from China. Actually, we want to source it in locally, but because of the scale and also because of the technology of the moving, upgrading of the components which will fit our product. So it actually requires a very strong supply chain capability and competitiveness in cost and lead time as well. So I think, and then of course, skilled manpower and productivity and know-how, which can be trained, but if we could have those in place, that's definitely one of the major components we watched when we set up our Vietnam and Thailand factory. It was fortunate as within my region. I remember what we do is we send a team of Chinese managers, factory, all the floor managers and all the engineers to the country. We do like 6 to 8 months training and transfer our knowledge, and then we actually make all the factory localized as Vietnam or Thailand local employees and managers who are running the floors now. So and then the financial viability, I think many of the panelists already mentioned. I think that for when we are all running a business, so the viability and profitability is what we have to look at, because and then I think for the government or for Indian government and all the industry who are looking at building a supply chain, sustainable supply chain, we have to balance between the cost of energy or the what we know is a PPA price, and the cost, and also to support the manufacturer who are local manufacturers. There need to be a balance, because if we're running a very, very slim margin, or if the financial, with a high cost of the financial cost in India, if the manufacturer couldn't reach a certain viability of financing and couldn't invest in R&D to have a sustainable growth in at least 5 to 10 years, I think the whole supply chain cannot grow. So we have to maintain a balance of the supply chain, healthy supply chain margin and profitability, so that to make the sector grow as much as they can. And as a foreign manufacturer, of course, we are looking at partnership, because we can bring in technologies and also know-hows and all the process, and we would be happy to transfer the technology and partner with local partner to do, because in the end it will be a local Indian supply chain. And so we are actually thinking it foreign investment, it is part of it, but I think in the end it will be a localized running business like what we do in other countries. And then the next one is local policies and government support. I think as one of the panelists mentioned that. So we are in China. If you look at how we actually building new factories in China in different part, and also we are investing heavily in new technology, very high efficiency, product technologies. And then, but there's Chinese market, project, which they will put a tender of the project, which are focusing on high efficiency, new technology, encourage all the manufacturer to heads up invest in the new technology by awarding those projects with a little bit higher, FIT or higher tariff rate, so that the whole industry can continue to invest in in upgrading the production line, in investing in R&D. So I think this is a sustainability of a manufacturer and of investment by all the manufacturing local, enterprises into really making the supply chain compatible. I think the last, but actually it's a number one of what I think is really the demand growth and consumption. So I think for India, unlike Vietnam and Thailand, most of the output of these countries, not by India, but also by tier 1 Chinese suppliers, are actually shipping to Europe or US, many US now, because of the tariff, because of the high FIT or high PPA rate. So I think this is mainly due to the cost is still in the cost roadmap of trying to drive down the cost to be close to China. But I think there's still a little bit premium on the cost-wise than Chinese, though it's very close with the scale growth. So I think the important is if there's a domestic growth, domestic demand growth, sustainable domestic demand like India is very good, so that all the local, domestic manufactured, product can supply to the market, which will not, with the cost and also the supply chain will be built. However, I think the most importantly is to ensure that whatever you're supplying locally will be competitive in the global market, which means that, yes, I think for the government to put into, incentives, tariffs, or to protect, to nurture the local manufacturer, which we totally understand. And a lot of the new industry or new manufacturing need to have this pass. But in the end, it's only a short-term protection. The most important is to have a healthy market-driven industry that can compete in technology, in scale of economy, in scale of supply, as well as in cost. to be able to supply to the global world. So usually what we look at is the output of the factory cannot be totally rely on government support in incentive to absorb or to purchase all this product locally. But we need to make sure that all the output of local domestic supply chain can really compete internationally in the other market with with China, Korea, Vietnam, Thailand. So I think this is generally what we think when we do strategic manufacturing expansion. We will look at all these factors. It's not right or wrong, but these are the things that we evaluate as a company. So I think these are generally what I have. Thank you, everyone. I think this brings to the last slide. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Helena, for your very succinct and excellent presentation and putting across exactly what needs to be done, especially the last slide of yours and the way you explained the whole thing about how sustainable business has to be built around sustainability and all that requires to be done around that. You highlighted very, very well. Thank you very much. And you have been part of India, part of India's solar growth, and you contribute significantly. And I was particularly very happy to hear that you are very, very open to collaboration with local companies and strengthening their supply chain and all support that you would like to extend. Only thing is you want that the business is sustainable over the long term and the things are competitive enough to participate in the global market, which is very welcome. Thank you very much for those perspectives, and hope you would soon come out with a big plan, and we will have another Suzuki-like PV plant coming up in collaboration with many companies here, and we have our own supply chain built with a company like you in our own country. Thank you very much for your contributions and being very open and frank in you sharing your thoughts. Thank you very much. So, Mohsin, let us now move on to the question which we missed. And it is always a struggle between the experts' desire to share all their information and also with the technical interruption.
So, here we go with the poll.
Yeah, please post the way. Let us have only about 30 seconds, not more. So, the question is, which country can better support India becoming a major PV supply? China, Germany, United States, or Japan? So, you have 30 seconds, please. Share your perspective.
So we close this?
Yeah.
Here are the results.
Well, it is expected China with 49%, very close to being 50%, and already they have been supporting us. And now with Helena also talking about the way they would like to support. Obviously, China is on top, and that's Helena would be very happy to hear that. Followed closely, not closely, half of that is Germany, and United States is far up behind at 10%, and Japan somewhere in between 17%. That's a good perspective, really. Yeah, thank you very much for sharing your perspective. Okay, great. So let us now go on to the next speaker, Ivan Saha, the CTO and head of the manufacturing. So Mr. Ivan Saha is postgraduate engineer from the Indian Institute of Technology, Kanpur. He has over 25 years of leadership experience in new technology development, business development, large-scale manufacturing, and he was earlier with ISRO, as you know, Indian Space Research. They have done human service. They are still doing, and they are coming up with a lot of things. I'm really happy that we have somebody from the Space Research Organization working in the solar sector and contributing his might from space qualified solar cell to terrestrial cell. Thank you for being with us, Ivan, and we would like to hear your perspectives on how we can indigenize manufacturing in India, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Ravi. Is my audio clear?
Yeah, you are absolutely clear. Your voice is very clear.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ravi and the Intersolar team for inviting me, and I'm happy to share my thoughts on this platform. It's always a pleasure to be part of Intersolar presentations, and this is no exception.
Thank you.
We are living in a very uncertain period of our careers, all of us. I mean, at least our generation, or even the generation before us, has not seen this kind of times, like the entire world is under shutdown. So first of all, wishing all of you that all of you are safe and healthy at home. And with that, I start my discussion. Before I come to the actual problem that we am going to state and the solution or the opportunity that this problem presents, I feel. Let me introduce my company, Vikram Solar. We are one of India's leading module manufacturers with a current rated capacity of 1.2 gigawatt per annum, and planning to ramp it up to 2 gigawatt in this year. We are BNEF Tier 1 and a PVEL or DNVGL LLC top performer for the last 3 years. And we have a very strong brand presence in Europe, US, besides being a dominant player in the Indian market. Our products include the entire portfolio of poly, monoperk, bifacial, half cuts, everything that we have. We recently introduced half cut, and we are in the process of introducing multi-bus bar half cut modules. Of course, we have BIS certification, etc. With EPC, we have an end-to-end solution provider for utility scale, rooftop, and off-grid projects. Have about 1 gigawatt of solar EPC experience as of last August, and the number is growing. So by the end of this year, we'll have almost 2 gigawatt. We have more than 12 years of experience in rooftop EPC segment with more than 200 projects across 500 plus sites in India. We have a O&M vertical as well, where we handle about 630 megawatt of O&M projects as of now. And we have special equipments and work methods adopted to differentiate our O&M services. Right, so I'm talking about pre-COVID, what was the scenario? And I'm going to talk about post-COVID, how this has changed. And if you see the chart that is there on the before you, 2019, the overall installation figure, total global installation figure was about 94.7 gigawatt. And before COVID happened, it was projected that we will, install about 107.8 gigawatt. Okay, the chart at the bottom is a projection from IEA, which shows the green bars that you see is a module capacity, means production capacity year on year. So last year, for example, production capacity was 160 and the installation was only 95. So there was an overcapacity. So the red line shows there is an overcapacity figure. The overcapacity of production over installation was 65 gigawatt last year. And this year, that production capacity was supposed to increase to 180 gigawatt with a gap widening to about 72 gigawatt. This was pre-COVID, mind you. Now, post-COVID, all these numbers, the installation numbers at least, are going to change a lot. I don't have the numbers for individual countries because that definitely 107 is not going to happen. Now, whether it is going to be 20% less, 25% less, but the manufacturing capacities of 20 gigawatt that was supposed to have installed this year, probably half of it will be installed. So we will be still looking at a potential difference between manufacturing capacity or over capacity of manufacturing to the tune of, anywhere between 50 to 60 gigawatt into 2020, which means there will be a huge oversupply in the market. So in case of India, this point is validated. So this is Wood Mackenzie's projection. What is going to happen in India pre-COVID and post-COVID for the wind and the solar industry? Okay, so the 2000, if you see 2019, the projection was about 9.5. Actually, we did about 7.3 gigawatt. So in 2020, we were supposed to do about 11.8 gigawatt or projected to do 11.8 gigawatt. Now, Wood and Mackenzie feels that we'll do only about 8.9 gigawatt. So that means there is a 25% of projected reduction in installation that is going to happen. So just put this thought in your mind, and I'll come back to it in my next slides. So what happened immediately after COVID? Let's just, you have heard about it from various sources in the media, etc. I just wanted to recap. So what happened was the DISCOMs in the states of Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, and Andhra Pradesh announced curtailment due to lower demand. MNRE stepped in to announce must-run status for all renewable energy projects. All this happened in the last 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Project construction activity virtually stopped. So we are expecting a delay of anywhere between 4 to 6 months. Today, MHA issued a notification, partial restart of activities probably will start from 20th of March. But again, it is area specific, hotspot specific, etc. So this is not my number, but this is one of the projections from the industry portals, that about 3 gigawatt of existing under construction projects are at risk of missing deadlines in India. Also, what happened was that Ministry of Power had issued clarification on payment mechanism for DISCOMs to remain as per the existing PPA. So the LCs, etc., the payments have to be made, and this was just to boost the investor confidence. In the because some of the DISCOMs were saying that we don't have money to pay because there has been lower demand and the people are not paying us, etc. That has been put to rest with Ministry of Power's clarification. ALMM guidelines have been extended to September 2020. Everybody knows that. We are expecting, and this is not we again, means analysts are expecting an overall global demand reduction by 20% to about 100 gigawatt. It could be lower than that depending on how US and Europe recovers, how quickly they recover from the COVID issues, and also how India shapes up. Reduction in demand in India by about 25%. This is what I showed you in the previous slide. Now, interestingly, there is one analyst, IHS, which projects that Chinese demand would increase by 50%. So last year, China installed about 30 gigawatt in 2019, and that is going to potentially go up to 45 gigawatt due to strong government policy support in the downstream sector in H2. So out of that roughly 90-100 gigawatt that is going to be done, 50% again, possibly China is going to contribute to that, which is again good news for the industry because a lot of the manufacturing capacity will be consumed due to this demand. Now, let me also present to you why COVID-19 can still be considered an opportunity. First, most important point, oil prices are at a historic low, $20 per barrel. I mean, nobody has seen this in their last maybe 20, 30 years. And it is not expected to increase soon. What happens when the oil prices are low? This presents an unique opportunity for governments to withdraw all subsidies, which will make oil and gas-based energy sources even more uncompetitive with standard renewable energy sources, wind and solar. Which right now, wind and solar, or maybe solar, let me talk about solar only, they are are quite competitive with normal gas or diesel fired furnaces or sources of energy, which is dependent on oil. Now with the subsidies being withdrawn from those non-renewable sources of energy, renewable energy will still be more competitive, which means there will be fresh, and investor interest in renewable energy, which is good for the sector. Now, this is reported by Marcom. Marcom reports that in Q1, 6.47 gigawatt of renewable energy projects were acquired by oil and gas companies globally. So these are new portfolios that are being bought by oil and gas companies across the world. 6.4. This is much, much higher than what they have ever done. Okay. So the oil and gas companies are already trying to get build up portfolios of renewable energy. And another 5.1 gigawatt projects were acquired by investors and project developers, making this one of the highest M&A quarters. This is a very significant sign, which means there is a huge investor interest and confidence in renewable energy, which is definitely going to impact the long scale sustainability of solar and wind. Polysilicon prices are bound to reduce if with oil prices coming down, etc., and all of that. Polysilicon prices will definitely reduce, and we are seeing very early signs of that already in the last quarter, last few weeks. We are also seeing early signs of reduction of module prices, capital equipment for solar projects. Most important capital equipment is the module, and the module prices are already showing a reduction, an early trend again, due to increasing supply from China, because China has not, all the capacities have come back online and they are producing to the maximum almost, and reduced demand outside India. What this also shows, or this is also projected, that the gap between multi and monocrystalline, which was about 25% today, modules, could potentially reduce to 10%. Most of the Chinese large manufacturers, my speaker before me also mentioned this, they have almost 80 to 90% converted their lines to monoparks. As the wafers become a little more, less expensive, or the price reduction happens, it is bound to come, impact is bound to come on module prices first. Again, it's a demand supply game. And if demand again picks up, probably the prices would still harden a little bit. But there is an expectation that the gap between the mono and multi prices is going to come back. And most importantly, in the post-COVID world, industry analysts have presented a strong case for competitive non-Chinese manufacturing to meet global demands. The key word here is competitive. So you need to be competitive as well. So all the manufacturers in this panel and all the Indian manufacturers, as well as others who are listening in, I think that's the key, that you need to be competitive, you need to be globally competitive. The numbers have to match to deliver the LCOE that we need. Let's talk about a little bit about, most of this has been already talked about in the by previous speakers, but let me talk about the solar manufacturing chain, and why do I call this manufacturing chain is incomplete. So any stage of manufacturing, I mean any product that is manufactured and put in the market for sale goes to 3 phases: design, process and product stage, and an end of life stage. Okay. Now, where is the gap in this? So the biggest gap, there is virtually non-existent technology and R&D within the country. That's why the next generation of solar cell technologies are not even talked about, not even researched upon at the industrial scale. There is research going on in academia and other places, but they are too isolated and too fragmented, I would say. So a unification of all these efforts are required. Then there is, some of the speakers already talked about the entire value chain, raw material, etc., is something that needs to be built up. So material restriction. And end of life, we have installed about 35 gigawatt of modules. We haven't yet figured out how to treat these modules after their end of life, how to reuse, recycle, or recover them. There are many plants who have underperforming modules in India. How to recover the generation from there. These are subjects that needs a strong focus and probably a good introspection at this stage, while everybody is at home and look bigger, will show us opportunities for the future. This is a slide taken from TSE. So TSE last year came out with a report on what are the impediments to solar manufacturing in India. And this is projected that due to the increasing demand, the blue line, the blue bars shows the demand, and the orange bar shows the supply capacity. So it's projected in 2020. I mean, we are like less than 10 gigawatt. When I talk about integrated supply, I mean starting from cell to module. Okay. Now, obviously, there is a lot of other products also, which I'm not going to talk about, because me being a module from the module industry, there are inverters, there are big cases for doing domestic manufacturing of inverters, cables, and other bill of materials, which are used in the aluminum structures, stainless steel structures, aluminum frames, glass, EVA, etc. So I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about only the cell and module here. So as you see, there is a very, very wide gap. So there is room to set up at least 10 gigawatt of competitive, globally competitive domestic PV manufacturing capacity, starting from solar ingots to modules. I didn't talk about polysilicon because that's not possible probably in the Indian context, because the scale and the cost at which polysilicons are done across the world, even China has not been able to achieve economies of scale in that. So I'm not talking about polysilicon, I'm talking about starting from solar ingots to modules. 10 gigawatt of globally competitive manufacturing capacity is what we should target. There is already a sustained domestic demand creation by the government in terms of DCR, KUSUM, etc., which PSU schemes, etc., which are already driving, large capacity setup, etc. There are more than, I think, overall about 5-6 gigawatt of capacity discussions or expansion discussions that are already happening before COVID. We need to accelerate this. And obviously, to do everything of around manufacturing, you need a very, very comprehensive policy framework. Accelerated depreciation, interest subvention, manufacturing equipment duty exemption, capital subsidies, land, power. The list is long, and I don't want to get into all the details, but there is a long list of must-haves from the government in terms of policy framework support for the industry. Another very key area where we need to focus on, that at least 20% of domestic capacity out of this 10 gigawatt, 2 gigawatt capacity must be dedicated to support advanced manufacturing, akin to China's top runner program. China has been particularly superbly successful in making monopark a standard product, and then the next generation heterojunction, etc., which are coming up by implementing this top runner almost 5 years back. I see that as a great strategic move by the Chinese government, and we should do that. We should learn from that, and we should do that as well. What will happen is, if you allocate your capacity and you give a special incentive for that, right now there is a difference of about 20 lakhs per megawatt between a DCR manufactured panel to a Chinese panel, for example, if you set up a project. So now, if you need to incentivize that further, increase that that incentive to higher than 20 lakhs, so that you can subsidize that, and probably for the first 1 or 2 years, encourage domestic manufacturers to invest in high efficiency capacities, high efficiency, 22%, 23%, passive contacts, heterojunctions, and those kind of things. Obviously, A lot of people talked about the domestic supply chain, which is very, very important. Investment support for R&D in advanced PV development with global industry research interface and collaboration with global PV players. This is where likes of Trina, GCL, the big leaders who also probably are looking at diversifying their geographical presence to India, looking at the Indian demand as well as the Indian strengths in mind, probably would be in order. I think that's all that I have right now. And thank you for your attention, and please stay safe.
Thank you, sir, very much. Ivan, you really brought out the issues that is emerging out of the COVID pandemic. And you also vividly captured all the issues that is currently holding up, and you had to come out with some of the nice suggestions what needs to be done for making India a real global hub. So thank you very much. But you know, we have really crossed our time limit, and I must apologize to all the speakers because I had to intervene and then request you to cut short your presentation. But then I know you have so much to say and you are very, very keen to address this particular question. But then I myself have so many questions I had actually prepared, but I'm afraid that we cannot really pose those questions. I think in the interest of time, I have no other option except to request each of the panelists to sum up, particularly in the light of what the participants had to convey, and combining your own perspective and those expressed by your fellow speakers. So what do you feel needs to be done for post-COVID so that we build a strong and robust indigenous manufacturing infrastructure? So may I ask Dr. A.K. Tripathi to start? Please take 2.5 minutes, and we will follow the same order as we did. So Dr. Tripathi, please.
First of all, I would like to really convey a lot of thanks to you that even at this hard time, you arranged this seminar. And we really got a very insight of the manufacturing in our country. What I feel that by seeing all these things is that the government intervention is very much important in this, which needs to be brought in a very structured manner. Be it in terms of assuring the market, be it in terms of giving some respite and incentives for the higher self-efficiency technologies being brought to the country, and so on. The second thing is that a good collaborators is also the Indian, we have the capability, but we need some good collaborating companies. And those companies which are truly ready to transfer their technologies and everything to the country, not for their business only, but in a true sense, and our agreement has to be such that which makes us self-sustainable after a certain period of time, maybe 2 years or 3 years. And with the advancement of the technology, means if we make a collaboration, that company has to support the advanced technologies also. It's not that they have given one time and then one time the big things have gone. So these two things. The third thing is the financing, means the cost of the financing needs to be made a little less for the Indian manufacturers, because this is one of the major issue which makes our cost unviable. The fourth thing is that rather going only for the tariff, higher tariff and low tariff, some incentives are required for the for announcing the tariff in advance for such kind of Indian manufacturing. Thank you so much. There are many things to share, but time is less.
Yeah, I perfectly understand with you, Dr. Tripathi. Time is less. There is so much to discuss on a topic as important as this. So now may I ask Mr. Sunil Sarati to give your valuable suggestion and observations, please.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Tripathi. I think going forward, once COVID is end, okay, this is going to be a new start for all of us. We have to look from a different perspective. Whatever we are thinking earlier is not going to work now. We, as an Indian manufacturer, has to look world as a market rather than just looking India as a market.
Yes, yes.
And this is going to be a next challenge for India to create our own infrastructure, a complete value chain within a country, so that such pandemic should not affect the supply chain within the country, or we should be able to support the world. World is also looking toward us to start a new manufacturing hub and looking for an alternative supplier, alternative country going forward. So I'm looking for a lot of support from the government, but most important is creating a value chain or creating a automobiles type of structure within the country, wherein Mr. Ivan also said that it should be a 10 gigawatt to 15 gigawatt of solar park, or we can say solar manufacturing hub, can be a good solution going forward. We're also looking for a government support to secure our industry, I would say going forward, like whatever manufacturing capacity we do it, there should be a visible offtake from a domestic to ensure that we don't impact with going for like whatever happened earlier. Same doesn't happen, that we have the capacities ready and we do not have orders in hand, or there is no market. So it should not be a seasonal demand. It should be a well-planned demand so that all industries work consistently. Well, we understand a quality, we understand, we have a good manpower. With government support, definitely we can become a next global hub for solar manufacturing. With this, I would like to. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rathi, for your final comments. And now I invite Mr. Chetan Shah to share his final comments, please.
Oh, well, see, basically, we had a very nice discussion, a lot of insight from all the speakers. One point which has come out is, every country, even the China has a major share in terms of manufacturing. India has also share. So every country, even including China, they look for multiple destination for manufacturing. They do not want to keep their all eggs in a one basket that is within China, right? Because this disruption has taught everyone that you have to split, you have to spread. So in case if China continues the same strategy of only in China, then they have already faced same thing in India, same thing for Japan also, and same thing for Europe and America. So I think for India, this is a great opportunity to talk to all these countries, particularly with China, to invite them to set up all the manufacturing, complete value chain manufacturing in the collaboration with the Indian companies in India. That is a one opportunity. And see, this is a golden opportunity. So India government cannot go in a standard flow. We have to have a different approach to grab this opportunity and nail it. So this is a chance, this is a golden chance. And if we really keep thinking about this, then I think we'll miss that bus, and then somebody else will take the advantage of this. So every country is looking for, as I said, let us talk to everybody. Number two point, which is mentioned here, we are still producing, unfortunately, we are still producing 18.2% efficiency cell. We are still producing 18% efficiency cell. We are still producing 4 bus bar cells. We are still producing modules with 330 watt peak, and we are supplying it to government projects or private projects. We have to think the whole system differently as a manufacturing, as an industry, not as a supplementary industry to the projects of 100 gigawatt. No way. If you want manufacturing, we have to think as a manufacturer, not as a supplier. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chetan. It looks like COVID has not only spread its despondency, but then it has also thrown enthusiasm amongst all the people who really care for the Indian PV industry. Anyway, thank you so much. And next, I would request Meenakshi to give your final comments. I'm sorry, I will have to request you to confine yourself to 2 to 3 minutes maximum, please. Thank you. And
no problem. No problem. I'm going to be fast. I'm going to be fast.
Yeah.
Well, I learned today once again that I think India is in a good way. Is a good way. India today has good knowledge of PV, good interesting players. You are going to be moving, as you said before, with BHEL to cell manufacturing. I will emphasize that government support should not be needed, but is always welcome. as we saw in China. It's not needed, but it's what we welcome. And especially in the R&D. To do R&D and innovation, government support is very, very, very welcome, especially in the technology and innovation part of it. And that's it. I want to thank you all. Sorry for my technical issues I had. Some of them I cannot blame on the network, but on myself as well. But thank you very much indeed.
No, thank you so much, Inaki. I mean, this is a real problem which we can't, we have been lucky, I should say, that we didn't have any major problems so far, but nonetheless, thank you very much. So now we request Helena to give her expert and final comments, please.
Thank you, Ravi. Yeah, I think I just want to, I cannot agree more on what everyone has just been saying. I think for me is what I'm thinking is this supply chain, what we talked about, whole supply chain building in India on the solar, is not a mission of one company like Trina or two or all the panelists, all this company. It's actually the industry. It really requires a unity of all the parts, all the puzzles to put together. Instead, because if it's only 500 megawatt, we go there, build a 1 gigawatt, then probably after 1 year, we cannot compete, even with ourselves back in China. So I think it really is a big campaign if we want to build a solar supply chain in India. So it's not something that can be driven by one factory or one player. So I think with all the things we talked about, if we could have really a platform where, I like the idea of the industrial park, where we can all have the government really have identified this is a strategic move. We need to build solar. We need to look at our solar development in India. We cannot just only look at development of project. We have to look at development of supply chain. So I think this is more like a call to everyone. We have to have something which is a policy driven. Second is, I think everything what we need to talk about is, I like to envision a picture. If I see from now, after 2, 3, or 5 years, we should envision a solar park with all suppliers of all different, part of the value chain. Like Trina, I think I still remember when I first joined Trina, when I see the solar park we have, the first solar park we have in China, we are now building more in different provinces, different cities. So I see is we have a 1 square meter of our own factory surrounded by a square kilometer, actually. 1 square kilometer, and then surrounded by 30 square kilometer of all the suppliers of wafer, cable, glass. So I'm sure that if we build such phenomenon in India, not just us, a lot of tier 1 of Chinese manufacturer, a lot of Chinese suppliers will come with all this supply chain to build a really holistic solar supply chain in India. So I was really looking forward to that day to come. And we never give up. We're still trying. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Helena, for giving your comments on a very, very positive note. And now, Ivan, would you please share your final comments, please? Ivan, are you on the line?
Yeah.
Please.
Sorry. So Ravi, thanks. Unfortunately, we didn't have time to take questions from the audience, but anyway, if you can have these questions sent to us, if some of us can answer them, we'll be delighted to do that. So we can offline take these questions.
Yeah.
First of all, and then secondly, I think the COVID situation actually is teaching us a lot of things, how to do business in a different way. I mean, who would have thought that without travels, without business travel, you can actually do business today?
True, absolutely.
You know? And so there are many teachings that are coming here, and it is all good for the domestic industry. I think what is required today in the Indian context is coming together, coming together of the developers, the manufacturers, and everybody else in a more collaborative way within India, so that there is a very strong opportunity now for taking India to the world. And this can happen only when everybody, because everybody's cause is purpose is the same. So the developer, the manufacturer, the value chain supplier, everybody there's a huge requirement for collaboration right now, more than ever. With that request, I think I would thank once again the organizers for giving me this opportunity.
Yeah, thank you, Ivan. I mean, you have summed up everything. I don't have anything to say, because if I again start another 4-5 minutes will go, and there is no need also, because all of you experts are really captured, and I mean, each one of you had unique things to say and share based on your deep knowledge of the industry and your understanding and your passion, what needs to be done. So in fact, I had the pleasure of interacting with almost with every one of you, directly and indirectly. And then one thing was very clear to me, that you are all committed to the PV industry first, and also you are also passionately engaged in seeing that India becomes a major manufacturing hub, including Mr. Inaki and Mrs. Helena. They are there to support us. They want to make this. But then there are certain things which they expect, and our own Indian manufacturer, they've got a lot of expectation in terms of financing, in terms of policies and whatnot. And luckily, and the perspective of what you shared is very well aligned with those of the participants also. Unfortunately, the enthusiasm of the participants is no less than the speakers, and we have really hundreds of questions. But I had to cut short myself, and as you rightly said, Ivan, we could not take up any questions we had prepared with you and for the discussion, and we had to cancel that discussion. But then overall, I felt that this was one of the best webinars, with all the experts really pouring out their passion, and then really giving out solutions and what needs to be done. So there could be no better opportunity. I mean, I really enjoyed it much more than anything else the last 20-21 days of lockdown, and it enriched me, and I'm sure everybody else, including the speakers listening from the other experts and also other participants, they really enjoyed, and then learned a lot, and then got a very, very wide and broad and perspective and understanding. And we have Mr. Tripathi, and I'm sure with his passion and his long association with MNRE, he will put across all the views that have been conveyed by the panelists, and we will definitely see this post-COVID, a new India emerging with the support of people who have established themselves outside, and also the passion and the commitment of the local manufacturers and many people who are working independently. And I would be failing in my duty if I don't talk about the youngsters, many youngsters who have boldly started new ventures, and who are really, despite all the difficulties they are facing in the light of, especially the even before they could establish this kind of problem, unexpected, I mean, this almost stifling the group. So we are indebted to them also, young boys, and they also need our support. And I am requesting Mr. Tripathi to put all these points across to the government, and let them bring out policies, and also encourage the entire, create the entire ecosystem, including the supply chain, so PV power in India. So that is with that final remark, I would like to thank all the experts, the participants, and all the people behind me. So Brijesh, if you have anything to say, maybe you can make a concluding remark, and then we will close.
Yeah, thank you, Ravi.
Brijesh, are you there?
Yeah.
Okay. So I would also, I mean, yeah, please. Yeah, if you're there, you please.
Yeah. So thanks, Ravi. First of all, I would like to thank each and every speaker, starting from Dr. Tripathi has been kind enough to accept our invitation. So goes with Mr. Rati, Mr. Helena Lee, and Mr. Chetan Shah, and yeah, not to forget Mr. Ivan Saha as well. Thank you for all being here. The one thing which I really want to make as a remark is, already I can see that we are fighting COVID in such a manner that we are talking about future, not sitting at home, locked down, and nothing, or keeping ourselves, hand tied. So we are already thinking about what is the future. That's a really excellent move I see from the industry. On the topic, I really feel that, yeah, from the experts who have spoken about it, India is in the lines for being independent in terms of manufacturing, but not to discount that we will need international support. That's why Ms. Lee and Mr. Legrad is here, giving their inputs, how India could be in this kind of path. Thanks all the 7 speakers and 1500 attendees. Unfortunately, we could not accommodate everyone, but definitely with our technical improvements, we will be able to accommodate everyone for our next webinar. Stay safe. Thank you once again. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you
all.
so much. Thank you all. Thank you, Helena.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye all.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Inaki. Thank you.
Thank you, Ravi.
Thank you. Bye-bye. You can close.